Well, this is Jared with Stampede Blue, and this is your Indianapolis Colts post-game wrap. The Colts lost today on the road to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the final score was 38-20. And I'm going to be real honest with you. After this game, I had to go to the bathroom and brush my teeth for about 10 minutes straight just to get the taste out of my mouth. You see, the Colts appeared to be in control of this game, and in the first half, they went into the locker room with a 20-16 lead. However, in the second half of the game, they completely forgot how to play, got outscored 22-0, and let's face it, Jacoby Brissett was 12 for 25 for like 162 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but he fumbled the ball twice trying to do too much. In a tight contest, you can't be doing that. And I gotta wonder if the bright lights, or maybe it's just playing on the road, is simply too much for him, and that will keep you from being a starting level quarterback in the NFL. Something to think about is that the Colts were 2-6 on the road this year. It must be said, though, that the Colts defense made Gardner Minshew look like Drew Brees. He was 27 for 39, 295 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, and yes, he threw an interception to Darius Leonard, who's amazing. And he did fumble the ball, and he was sacked 3 times. And it appears, at least to me, that it might just be scheme, or maybe it's just Kenny Moore is that good that when you don't have him and you're playing guys off the street, and I hate to call it that, but if they're not on the practice squad, they literally sign them off the street. But it is worth saying that like Pierre Desir did very well today because Chark had 4 catches for 34 yards. So that's great. But Westbrook had 7 for 72 and a touch. Keelan Cole had 3 for 67 and a touch. Armstead had 5 for 51 and a touch. So you can see that outside of like a number 1 cornerback, and I get it, Rock Ya-Sin's a rookie and pressed into a starting role and forced to do a lot, and that is a big role, right? Cornerback's one of the hardest positions to play in football, and if you don't believe me, it's because you don't play football. But yeah, cornerback's very difficult to play. The Colts got chewed up through the air. Again, they've done well against the run all year long. 24 rushes for 67 yards against, 27 rushes for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns for, right? So Marlon Mack, 15 carries for 77 yards and 2 touchdowns. But where was he in the second half? And that kind of goes for the entire Colts team, right? So it's not just the offense, and it's not just defense. It was even special teams was pretty bad, right? And that's been bad all year. I think the Colts have found their kicker, though. McLaughlin looks fine. And they'll pick 13th in the first round, 13th overall in the upcoming 2020 draft. They'll also have the Washington Redskins second round pick, which I believe is like 34th overall, plus their own second round pick. So another season, the Colts have a ton of picks in the top 50 of this draft. Well, not a ton of picks. They have 3 picks in like the top 50 or 60. And they've got some holes. You'd think that the right side of the offensive line needs to be adjusted or addressed. The defensive line needs to be addressed. I don't think they've solved the secondary, right? I could see a play for a safety. And that's where I wanted to leave it to you. So you need to do a little research, find out how much cap space the Colts have. There's a list out there on Stampede Blue of the free agents for the Colts. And let's do a little project together. Who do we let go? Who do we re-sign? Take a look at there's a free agent list out there floating around. Take a look at who you'd want to sign. There's tons of draft boards up. You know we pick 13th and 34th overall. So tell me, what do you do in free agency? Who do you re-sign? And who do you draft? Let's have a conversation. This will be my last video for the 2019 season, and you won't see me make another post-game wrap video until into the preseason at some point. However, I wanted to remind you, first, I've started doing sports commentary because it's something I've always wanted to do on the Hot Mic app, HOTMIC. If you have an Android or an iPhone and you're interested in hearing my thoughts during a game as it goes, I'm a play-by-play commentator. I'll commentate the playoff games. I might even do the Super Bowl. I'll do the remaining bowl games. I'll do the Senior Bowl if they'll let me. And if you want to interact with me, you can always find me on Twitter at Likely Alien. You can see it right there, right at Likely Alien. And lastly, Stephen Reed and I have a conversation a few days ago. We decided to take a break for the holidays. It just our usual day of recording was Tuesday, right? And we kind of just said, hey, we've got to travel. We've got families, kids, grandparents. Let's take the week off. However, we're also going to keep doing our podcast through the off season. So as best we're able, we're going to try to put out a weekly podcast for you, at least an hour long. And then, very lastly, Stampede Blue, you guys know, every year our staff does a collaborative project that we call the Draft Guide. And what we'll do, and we've actually already started, I started commentating high-level college football games to acclimate myself with being able to talk about really good college football players as it refers to the draft, and having seen them play live, and I talked about them live, it makes it a little easier to recall when you go back and do your research. So we'll do research on a couple hundred players. We will present you with a draft guide a few weeks before the draft so that you'll have a bunch of information. You'll get to see what we all think. But really, you'll get a lot of research on all the draft eligible players. You'll get all of our collaborative thoughts on what we think the Colts need and what they should prioritize. I think that the top half of this draft class in terms of how good a player they are is offensive. There's several wide receivers and several quarterbacks in like that top 12 to 15 range, which is about where the Colts are picking. And I think that I would just go out on a limb and say I think the Colts are in line to either take a quarterback or a wide receiver in the first round. Don't quote me, but that's just what I think they'll do. And then, like I said, let's have a conversation in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't. Follow me on Twitter if you haven't. Have a happy new year. Go Colts. The future's bright, right? 2020 is ahead of us. This is a young football team, probably one of the youngest teams in the NFL, and they're going to get younger. The Colts are going to get even younger, and I trust Frank Reich and Chris Ballard to do the right thing. So keep your head up, man. I get it. It was a rough season, but I think we all knew it was going to be rough after Andrew Luck was suddenly retired, right? And that I know I sat up here and I was a stand for Jacoby, but like I told you in the beginning of the video, I'm pretty sure the bright lights got to him. 2-6 on the road ain't it? The last 7 games ain't it? He looks every bit like a backup. You got to put complete games together, and I think he had one, and that was the Houston game, right? So I could absolutely see drafting a quarterback, using Jacoby as a bridge QB, and I get what the front office is telling you. That's our guy. We believe in him and all that. Give him another off season. He'll take another step forward. I don't know, man. I just don't know. I don't know if I buy that. Maybe Jacoby found out that Andrew Luck is coming back, and it was so much of a secret that it affected his play negatively. Have a good rest of your year. We'll see you next year.